This will be the first in a series of lectures about managing reproductive goals in beef cow operations. So, when it comes to managing reproduction, I always think in terms of different groups that have to be managed. On a commercial or a seed stock operation, that tends to be heifers, which need to be managed differently than cows. And of course, we need to not forget about bulls because they are an essential part of this whole process. So, with heifers, they need to be managed separately and differently than our cows because they are still in a rapid growth phase of life. So, because they're growing, they need to be on an increased plane of nutrition so that they reach puberty on time. Once they reach puberty, they have the ability to come into the estrous cycle, which enables them to respond to estrous synchronization techniques if that is a part of your reproductive management goals. Once they're bred, they are going to go through the gestation period. Then they are going to calve and go into the postpartum interval period and have to get rebred with that second calf. And so the heifer is going to be growing all the way through this sequence of events. And so one of the ways that, or one of the big costs that make heifers such a risk to manage is because have just had a calf, they are still growing, they are just losing their teeth and getting their new set of teeth in, and we're asking them to get rebred with that second calf. That is a really nutrient intensive time. And so if your nutrition program isn't appropriate, this is where we can see a lot of heifers fail to get rebred with that second calf. So this is such a big problem that it's been suggested and research supports managing heifers in a different group compared to our cows. Now, our cows are going to be more cyclic because they're going to go through the same sequence of events in a 365-day period. So they need to be on an increasing plane of nutrition through the end of gestation and calving, and that will help them be able to go through and get synchronized if that's a part of the program. After they have calved, they're going to be in that postpartum interval where they are lactating heavy, and we're asking them to get rebred again. So again, this time is really nutrient intensive as well. And then the last group that we're going to need to talk about management of is the bulls. So bulls are a forgotten piece of management sometimes, or they're not intensively managed in some operations, but there's different considerations that need to come into effect when we're talking about bulls. So are we raising or purchasing yearling bulls? Their management probably needs to be a little bit different than mature bulls that have been a part of our battery for a couple of years. We have to consider managing bulls prior to and during the breeding season, but we also have to manage them during the non-breeding season portion of the year. And so as bulls are getting ready to go into the breeding season, they too need to be on an increased plane of nutrition so that they remain fertile, which we're going to test with breeding soundness exams. And we also need to just be cognizant of them staying healthy, not fighting with other bulls, that they have plenty of space, and that they stay safe as well, because they are worth a lot of money and they're a significant investment in a cow-calf operation. So when it comes to reproductive management, this strategy always goes back to asking the question, what are the goals of your operation? So are you a seed stock purebred operation or a commercial cow-calf operation? That's going to be your first question to decipher. And the second question is, when do you want your calving season to be? And so I stress when I do consulting or teaching or whatever, that one of the ways to be a a profitable producer and be a low cost producer is to make sure that you're taking advantage of when Mother Nature supplies the largest percentage of protein and energy. And so for us here in California, this is springtime. So during the spring, our annual grasses are coming on, and they are producing high amounts of protein and energy for our females. Another part of this calving season, a piece of the information is going to be how are we marketing our calves and when are we marketing our calves, because that calving season, both the length of the calving season and when it needs to hit during the year, is going to influence the marketability of those calves. And then just a few comments about the reproductive goals. So we have the goals for our entire operation, but our reproductive goals can be a subset of that. And so in general, for cow-calf operations, the reproductive goal is to achieve a high conception rate in a relatively short breeding season. And so calving seasons, depending on the type of operation you have, are going to vary in length. So shorter calving seasons are 60 days on average, and longer calving seasons with bigger operations or in extensive range conditions can be upwards of 120 days. So keep in mind that your calving season is going to relate directly to the uniformity of your calf crop. Okay, so shorter calving seasons, shorter breeding seasons enable calves to be more uniform in size and weight. And then also keep in mind, we want to make sure that we retain an adequate number of cows in our herd for a really long period of time if possible. And the reason for this is that even though younger cows bring down the gestation or the generation interval in our herd, and they can bring in new genetics that might be more efficient, it takes a lot of money to develop a female, and we invest a lot of money in that process. So the research continues to show that older cows are more profitable in our herd. And so this relates really to that concept of a replacement animal. So on average here in the US, a typical cow-calf operation is going to replace about 20% of its cow herd every single year. And so those replacements need to make sure that they are coming into the herd at the appropriate time with traits that are going to help you reach the goals of your operation. All right, so before we begin getting into subsequent lectures about reproduction and beef cattle, I just want to make sure that everybody's on the same page when it comes to the specific general facts about beef cattle reproduction. So first of all, puberty in beef cattle is going to be about at a year of age. And this is going to vary depending on a lot of factors, so age, environment, and more importantly, breed. So Bos Taurus breeds like Angus and Hereford, Jersey and Holsteins, they are going to reach puberty around 12 months of age, but that can vary. It can be as young as 10 months or as old as 18 months. And then our Bos Indicus species like Nelores and Brahmins specifically, they can take a little bit longer to reach puberty, so anywhere from 18 to 24 months. And so that age of puberty is really, really critical because the animal has to go through puberty before they will start cycling, before they will be able to conceive. And so we in the U.S. target heifers to have their first calf by 24 months of age. That's one of the ways that we can stay profitable. And so in order for that heifer to reach that goal, she has to be bred by 15 months of age. So if she's not even coming into puberty until she's 18 months of age, that presents a problem for our operation. Typical estrus cycle length is going to be about 21 days. It can be shorter or longer than that by about 3 days. The standing heat or the estrus activity is going to take place for about 12 to 18 hours. And so, again, this is dependent on environment and breed for the most part, but usually cows are going to be in a standing heat for about 12 to 18 hours. Ovulation is going to occur approximately 11 hours after that female has been in standing heat. And so ovulation is going to occur after standing heat. And so all becomes very important as we are trying to determine when to artificially inseminate cows, if that is a chosen management strategy or not. And then the gestation period in beef cattle is 285 days. Again, that can be shorter or longer, on average by 5 days, depending on a lot of different factors as well. All right, so now that we have the basis of some reproductive facts in beef cattle, in the subsequent lectures, we're going to get more specific, talking about how we manage heifers versus cows and bulls.